you.
Meanwhile, House Judiciary Committee now launching an investigation into the impact of tech giants on the news media, from the spread of misinformation to their impact on newspapers and local news, which has been significant. All under a bipartisan microscope now. Cheryl Gassoni, host of FBN AM on the Fox Business Network. Nice to see you, Cheryl.
Nice to see you guys. Good morning.
Talk about the issue. What's on the line here?
Well, you know, the FTC, the DOJ have already said they're going to look at Google and Amazon and Apple and Facebook. They're going to look at these companies because they think that they have too much power. This is kind of the first, I'm going to call this a mini hearing, ahead of lots of hearings you're going to see. They're trying to get the CEOs on the Hill. They want Mark Zuckerberg to come back. They want to go after big technology. But the news media issue for today is interesting this afternoon because these smaller, think of like the Dallas Morning News, the Arizona Republic, they're losing revenue because they put their headlines are on Google, but you're not going to their site. You're actually reading the headline on Google, the news on Google. So the revenue is not going to that newspaper. That's going to be what you're going to hear this afternoon from those media professionals.
Obviously, also
leaders.
The big question is the control of the news that these huge technology giants have and the filtering of that and how you receive it.
The aggregation, yeah. How are we looking? How are those news articles filtered? When you search for donuts, you know, Krispy Kreme, a funny story this morning we were doing on Maria's show. You know, you search for donuts, what comes up? Is it a donut company that Google actually has a piece of? Is it a donut company that's paying Google to, you know, get them to sell to you their donuts? I mean, that's kind of a silly reference, but that's the crux of this.
Two ways to look at this. Wall Street Journal, Big Tech in the Dock is the name of the title here. Here's what they write. Some scrutiny is warranted, but the formation of a political posse is the moment to remember that antitrust is governed by law that focuses on consumer benefit, not merely business size. Antitrust law should punish clear predatory behavior, not bigness for its own sake. That consumer benefit is something that sticks out on that.
This you're quoting from that editorial, from the editorial board, and it's a great article. And they go into the fact that really, look, remember the breakup of Ma Bell back in the 80s?
Sure.
Okay, because you only have one phone company and one phone, and that's a monopoly. Can you really say that about technology? Again, if I go to search on Google because I need a new golf driver, well, I'm going to have 10 options. I don't have to just buy what Google tells me to buy. That's a monopoly. I think this is actually a really tough road to hoe for the government, and I understand that there is a big political, maybe a consumer outcry about privacy and all the things that technology and these companies are being accused of. But I'm not necessarily convinced that trying to break up Facebook or Amazon or Apple is really necessary. And I think this could actually
the digital ad spending says a lot, and the money is what it gets everybody's attention. 37% of digital ad spending goes to Google. Okay, Facebook 22% of the market, Amazon, it goes down into the single digits all the way to, you see, Microsoft and LinkedIn 4%, Verizon 3%. Moving on to AOC, and she wants lawmakers' salaries to go up. They haven't changed since 2009. She's making the case for higher salaries for Congress.
You know, actually, I have to say, I agree. If you look, they haven't had a pay raise in 9 years in Congress, and they're making about, what is it, $170,000 a year in Washington. I mean, that's the average salary.
$174,000.
There you go. So honestly, cost of living, that is language I can understand and speak, and I will tell you that I do think that it is time for them to get a raise. I know that's not a popular thing to say.
Hang on now. Let's make room for the other. Here she is first explaining yesterday on the cost of living adjustment.
Members of Congress, retail workers, everybody should get cost of living increases to accommodate for the changes in our economy. You know, it may not be politically popular to say, but honestly, this is why there's so much pressure to turn to lobbying firms and to cash in on member service after people leave. It's not even like a raise. It's a cost of living adjustment.
The proposal is $4,500 a year.
Right. Is that really that much?
She may be making the argument about universal basic income at some point. If not she, some others like Rashida Tlaib was just this past week.
Well, I mean, look.
So she may make the case that everybody needs a raise. I would argue make as much money as you can. However, members of Congress, their meals are paid for. Right?
They get a lot of vacation. Yes, I agree with that.
There's a lot coming their way to cover their day-to-day expenses. Go ahead on that.
But if you look at the cost of living increase that she's talking about over the last 9 years, they've actually had a 15% decrease in their pay. Again, I can't believe I'm defending Congress. I mean, with the single-digit approval ratings that these guys and gals have. But at the same time, if you look at, especially when you're living in a city like Washington, D.C., again, they get a lot of vacation, a lot of travel back and forth their districts. And she's right. It's not politically a great idea to ask for a raise if you're a congressional leader. They probably won't do it.
So
but at the end of the day,
CRS,
the numbers are
Congressional
there.
Research Service, found that in May, adjusted for inflation, salaries for members of Congress had actually gone down 15% since the last pay raise, which was back in 2009, as we were showing you.
Yeah,
So
that's the
those
point I'm making. I mean,
are the
look,
numbers.
again, I know this isn't a popular thing. You think, well, they don't deserve a pay raise. What are they doing for me? But at the end of the day, I don't think I want my congressman or woman actually walking around in torn jeans and living at a hovel in Washington. Just a point.
All right,
Not
very
so sure they're going to be doing that anytime soon, however.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Cool. Cheryl Casoni.
All right. By the way, Krispy Kreme in Times Square is what you're talking about, right? A public assassination could be tied